Here's what concerns me the most, Bill, about that report, and I wonder if Austin agrees. There was a reduction of over 100,000 people in the labor force, and that doesn't make sense. We're in a recovery right now with 10 million job openings. Bill, we got to do something to get workers back on the job. There's 10 to 11 million job openings today. You've got companies like FedEx that say they have 10,000 job openings. We got to get people on the job. And Austin, I think we're paying people too much.
Steve, this is you make a living out of this stuff. Why is it that way? Do you have a theory?
Because, yeah, it's pretty clear. We've expanded food stamps. We're giving people $300 per child without any work requirements. The rental assistance, all of these welfare payments are basically paying people not to work. And by the way, the $5 trillion bill that Austin's a big fan of, that's going to make it worse.
Okay, so he set the argument for you, Austin. Do you agree, sir?
Well, that was the closest that Steve has ever come on this program to admitting that he made a mistake. For the last year, Steve has been saying that what we needed to do to increase labor force participation was to cut off the unemployment benefits, that the reason people weren't going back to work was because of those unemployment benefits. And if you remember, Bill, I've been saying all along the virus is the thing that drives this. We've got to get control of the virus to get the job market to come back. Well, we followed Steve's advice collectively, and we've cut off all of that unemployment insurance, and we get a dud of a jobs report, and the labor force participation rate
he's making
down.
The case about
what this tells us. No, that's why I said it's the closest. He didn't admit a mistake. He just changed the subject. Now he attributes it to something else. Other kinds of government payments.
Steve, you want to respond to that?
This is the virus. We must get more vaccinations and control the virus. That is 100% why this number is not good.
All right. No, it's not 100%. I mean, there's something to what Austin is saying. There's no question that the Delta variant and the increased scare about the virus did keep people out of the labor force. But you know what? Your own colleague at the University of Chicago, Casey Mulligan, says we would have about 800,000 more people working if the blue states had gotten those unemployment rates benefits down. My point is, it's not just the unemployment benefits, it's the whole package and panoply of all these programs that are paying people not to work. By the way, Austin, just ask the small business owners. They will tell you they can't compete with the government benefits.
God, that sets us up for this. And University of Chicago put out a study, Austin. I mean, you're there. You represent them. Here's what the Wall Street Journal says about the next step in social spending. They call it the child allowance welfare trap. I'm going to read you something from there, and I'll show you the numbers that Democrats are proposing. Here we go. Democrats are deciding what to keep or cut in their $5 trillion spending bill. And here is one proposal that Senator Joe Manchin ought to excise, converting the child tax credit into a universal basic income, which will discourage the work and advancement essential to escape poverty. I know Steve's shaking his head on that. Here is what the proposal is, as we understand it in the bill. $3,600 for a kid under the age of 6. $3,000 for a kid between the ages of 6 and 17. I go through the year 2025. There is more in this bill. The child tax credit, fully refundable. Here's one example. If you earn $0 in the year 2020, you'll get $7,200 for 2 children under the age of 6. Would that not just contribute to Steve Moore's argument about the giveaways?
Well, I don't think so, because you don't lose the money if you get a job. In Canada, where they did a policy very much like this, it increased labor force participation because finally people could afford child care, which in the current situation they cannot. So I don't think.
But this study out of Chicago,
you saw 462 leading economists 3 weeks ago came out and said exactly the opposite, that they thought that this
the
would
study's conclusion would drive 1 million workers out of the workforce. And that's from Chicago.
That's what I said. You're choosing one study, but 462 economists just 3 weeks ago said the opposite.
Steve?
Yeah, but look, here's the issue, though, Austin. You know, when you look at that $5 trillion package that they're trying to move through Congress, it has a vast expansion of these benefits. And whatever happened to the bipartisan agreement we had in 1996 with Bill Clinton in the White House, Newt Gingrich and the Republicans running Congress, and we passed welfare reform bill, and that was a huge success. We basically said, look, we're going to have a safety net, but you got to be getting in the workforce, you got to get training, you got to get a job, and we've moved away from that. Where are the work requirements to get people back on the job? The worst thing you can do is keep people unemployed for a long time. You've got people now 18 or 19 or 20 months who have not worked. That's a really bad thing.
Listen, guys, we're going in the Wayback Machine. Here we go. Here was the date it all changed. August 22nd, 1996.
Today we are ending welfare as we know it. But I hope this day will be remembered not for what it ended, but for what it began. A new day that offers hope, honors responsibility, rewards work.
25 years later, is today's Democratic Party, Austin, reversing course?
Well, if you recall, there's a lot of dispute over welfare reform that it happened in the middle of a boom. Once the recession came under the Bush administration, the success of welfare reform was not as good. But leave that aside. This is not going back to a system in which you lose the benefits if you get a job. That was the whole point of welfare reform, is to try to get away from that. This does not do that. If you've got hundreds of leading economists saying this is going to encourage work and relieve some of the supply chain bottlenecks and labor supply bottlenecks.
I don't see it that way.
So I'm out of time, but I mean, well, that's where the debate is joined. Thank you, gentlemen. By the way, Steve Moore met Dana Perino in August of 1996.
Or maybe a little before, but yeah.
And
by the way, I want one thing, Bill. I want Austin to work with me to keep the Chicago Bears in Chicago. All right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think you can manage that.
That's a whole separate thing.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Steve. Have a great weekend, gentlemen. Thank you. See you next Friday. Bye-bye.
Take care.